Hey, what's up everyone? Rob Brinded here. I'm going to be talking about a few things I'm finding very interesting at the moment. Dyslexia and sort of the more systems way of thinking, more engineer type way of thinking. And some of my clients who I've helped with that. I'm going to be talking a little bit about statins and LDL and just look at a pattern that I see there. Not really going into any depth. I haven't got any of the research in front of me, but I just found it quite interesting. Just wanted to talk about those couple of things. It's interesting how just going into kind of this idea at the moment that we have to believe everything that we hear, and I'm more of a person to test and verify before I believe something. So actually, if we start off on, it's kind of the two interact with each other. So with dyslexia, what I'm finding is a lot of the clients that have a sort of dyslexic type way of thinking, which is very good pattern recognition, being able to take information from many different aspects and find patterns in it, but are not very good at systemizing their thinking. And that is a problem for me, and it's a problem when I come to discuss with someone who's very systems thinking, because I kind of jump, and I'm just not very good at explaining things in a very systematic way. So when and what that does is, when you come to thinking about having arguments, it's not so easy, I think, for a dyslexic, just because they're completely different way of thinking than someone who's more systems, like kind of linear. And what that does for me, in my experience, is you lose confidence in your intellectual ability, and this goes back to programming at school. I was told many times I wouldn't amount to anything. I remember this one French teacher absolutely screaming at me about that. And what I realized now is I was brutal on myself, just because I didn't fit in the schooling system, because everything was learning everything but off. You had to memorize everything and then regurgitate it in a system fashion, and I can't do that. So it's taken me 48 years to realize that the way my brain works is unique, and it's a skill set, and it's brilliant. I love it. That's helped by people like Richard Branson. Actually, Steve Jobs, I didn't realize was dyslexic, but some of these leaders in their fields who are sort of saying that they're dyslexic. I remember the story by Richard Branson where he was in a board meeting, I don't think it was that long ago, and someone said the net profit and the gross profit. See, I still find it difficult. I've seen this so many times. And he was in the board meeting and someone was talking about that, and Richard Branson just put his hand up and said, look, I still don't remember, I've been told this so many times, what's the difference between net and gross profit? And one of the people there drew on the board a net that is the net catching the fish. That's what you take home with you. The gross is all the fish. And so that's how he remembered. And I just remember thinking, that was such a relief for me to see that, for someone who's achieved so much. So those type of things sort of helped me set myself free. And now I help people. I see dyslexia traits in people. So just recently I had a client who was a trader, and I could see he was dyslexic in that he was so fast and so charismatic and just seeing patterns everywhere. But he was doing something that he really is more someone who's not dyslexic is probably better at, like very linear, systematic, kind of boring engineer type, doing trading. And they weren't getting the results they wanted. And I just, I was like, you're kind of like a monkey or a fish climbing a tree, comparing yourself to a monkey. Helping him to understand that his skill set is remarkable. It's amazing. I'm not saying a systems engineer type brain is not remarkable as well, but it's different. And he sort of realized that, and I kind of pointed out these blessings that this speed of his ability to pattern information, his perception, his ability to empathize with people and understand what's behind what they're talking about. And he changed direction in his business, and he's now doing something completely different and doing videos and helping people. And it's just like, for me, he's just slotted into something for him that's super easy. He's not struggling anymore. I also had a client very recently who is a yoga teacher. I could hear in the things that she wanted to work on, which was like a discipline, more focus, more organized, these type of concepts. And this is where dyslexics really struggle and have been kind of taught that they don't fit in, because engineer types and systemized people are very systemized and organized, and they're able to consistently just go and create businesses, and but everything's linear and systemized. And so in yoga, there are yoga teachers like that, and they're very organized, everything's perfect, everything's systemized. And she's not like that. She's creative, and things come and go. She patterns information. She gives everything in the session. She connects with people, and that's unique in a skill set. And it's almost like, I was like, that's a blessing. That's amazing. Don't compare yourself to people who are really super organized. You'll never be like that. It's just different. And you could see like a light switch on in her head going, but and she cried because she kind of realized that she was okay. She is who, it's okay to be her. And I think with finding where you fit in and how you work best for, I'm just talking about dyslexics, which is what I am, is realizing that you're okay and you have wonderful gifts. You just got to fit into what works for you. So for instance, with me doing a video, I know people say, oh, you got to plan it out and systemize it. I'm like, fuck that. Like, that just doesn't work for me. It like switches me off. The yoga teacher was saying, when she looks at like old ancient scriptures and stuff, it's like, and I'm like, yeah, because I've decided to do this video, and everyone's ringing the doorbell. The first time was a guy who's delivering next door, and now it's the family, so it won't be too long now. So anyway, coming back to find out what works for you. Yeah, everyone's remarkable. A lot of my friends are dyslexic. I like that type of, you can pattern information, see patterns everywhere, speed of information you need. I like to listen to podcasts. I usually speed them up, and I usually work out at the same time so that it's not too slow. So I'm getting more and more comfortable with this in me. And one of the other things is you start to see patterns in science. It's not easy to discuss it with a scientist because they're so systematic in how they do that. So let me just close this door a little bit more. Yeah, I'm probably going to hopefully get someone shut me out. I like the background, these clouds. Oh. And then the door just blew closed, so I had to go out again. I'm good now. So when it comes to looking at research, I understand that my skill set is more being able to see how things interrelate with each other and see patterns, and that went for me when I was at Chelsea, or when I'm working with elite athletes, is to be able to see that you know, for instance, there was this player that once came to me. He was suffering from sort of soreness in his shins, and no one could work out why it was. And I said, "Are you doing anything different at the moment?" And he said, "No, not really." I said, "Didn't you pass your driving test the other day?" And he goes, "Well, yeah." And I said, "Well, what movement are you doing a lot of?" Because clutch control. And I said, "Do the clutch control." And he goes, "Oh my God, that's it." So it's thinking outside the box. That's one of my skills. It's also a downside is that I can jump to conclusions and sort of correlations and causation. I can see something, you know, when it's not that. But you know, that's my ideas. You know, one of my strengths is coming up with ideas for projects and things. But I'm not good at the actual system of putting it into place. I need a project manager. So that's cool. Anyway, so I was looking at, I got into sort of low carb diet, carnivore, about a year ago now. It's completely transformed me, transformed my health. And it's been fantastic for me. But it just maybe have a deep dive into insulin, hyperinsulinemia, pre-diabetes, metabolic health. I started looking at all of these different things, eye health, because that's one of the reasons why I was doing it, because I was getting a lot of blurry vision, especially when I drank coffee, which can spike your glucose and, you know, affect your eyes. And so, you know, out of that, and I've had loads of changes in my body. An interesting thing that I realized the other day, talking to one of my good friends, Neil Day, I was talking to him about when I walk, it feels like my feet are softer, like they are more pliable. And I talked to him about it, and it reminded me of some of the fastest, most powerful players that I worked with in football. Is when I worked on their feet, they were that incredibly pliable. And I kind of had a foot fetish at the time, because I'd always look at people's feet and how they loaded and everything. And I've noticed that my feet in the morning have gone back to like when I was a kid. Also, the skin around my heels used to be cracked and dry. Now it's like a baby's feet, which is remarkable. So I talked to Neil about it, and I was like, it seems like it stiffens my feet, the excess glucose or something to do with the insulin, or having high or insulin not, you know, insensitivity to the insulin. And he said, well, there's a paper on that he'd seen recently, so he sent it to me, and it showed that there's a stiffening of tendons with something to do with glycolysis or something. So I'm going to look into that a little bit more, but really interesting. No one talking about that, of course. So then I started looking at cholesterol, and my mum said, yeah, but we've got high cholesterol in the family, hyperfamilial cholesterolemia, or something like that. And so I started researching that, and then I started going down the rabbit's hole with LDL and this lipid health hypothesis, which kind of fell apart and made me really question it when my father-in-law had a heart attack last year. I've talked about that before. 20 years vegetarian, clean diet, exercised every day. All his arteries in his heart completely blocked on a vegetarian diet. I was like, what? So he had a sweet tooth, that's for sure. So then I started digging into it, and it's you know, the saturated fat clogs your arteries. That's been debunked years ago. It was based on extremely poor evidence. And then I started looking at LDL, this bad cholesterol, and people saying, no, it's not bad. And there's tons of research showing that high LDL, higher cholesterol, you live longer. If you lower LDL through statins, you increase your risk of diabetes. What? You increase your risk of heart disease. What? Crazy. And then you start getting into start looking at statin research, and that it's all hidden. The raw data's hidden, and the people that in the Oxford University that are kind of can see it receive millions, hundreds of millions in money from the statin producers, the pharmaceutical industry. I'm like, okay, here we go again, you know. And it's not funny. It's you know, it's deceptive, and their marketing is deceptive on the benefits, with relative and absolute improvements. It's like if you take statins, the best is like a 1% decrease in mortality, but masses of side effects. And then I think that's the relative, but the absolute reduction in risk is, yeah, it's like 1%, but they're saying it's like 48% in the literature based on relative. So they're being deceptive anyway. Again, I find it difficult to remember, but you can look that up. This is just my thoughts, right? So I started looking at all of that and started realizing cholesterol's super important. Like I eat loads of cholesterol now. I love it. It's you know, I eat eggs and steak, butter, and I feel great. My body, I feel I'm in better shape now than when I was 20, and I'm 48. It's incredible. I can do 20 chin-ups in a row, easy. And I couldn't do that before, I just couldn't. I've never been able to do that. So my strength has gone up. Then you start looking at sarcopenia, or muscle wastage. That's a whole nother thing I'm not going to get into. It's coming back to the statins, and then I started looking at this research. It's like, it's obvious that these statins are harming our health. They're bad for us, and then anyone that speaks out against it is called a conspiracy theorist, or is threatened. And so you just look at some. There's this Dr. Seam something in the UK, a brilliant mind, brilliant doctor. He doesn't give a shit, and he's going after them. Like, he looks at the truth, and you know, I look at these people, and you know, there's some bullshitters on, and you know, you can kind of tell when you listen to someone if they're being balanced and they're being honest and truthful. But the thing I like about this swing towards more truthfulness is, if you look at the low carb conference on YouTube, there was low carb down under conference. Look at them talking about their research. Everyone comes on and goes, "Hi, my name's Dr. So-and-so, and I have no conflict of interest with the pharmaceutical industry, and you can see this is where I receive all my money from." And that's not the true of doctors who are pro statins. They have hidden agendas and they're conflicted. Anyway, look at that yourself. So I talked to my mum about it, who's been on statins for ages, and also I realized recently my younger brother's been put on it and was getting some discomfort. And I talked to my mum, and hopefully she won't mind me talking about this, but her transit time, so she was constipated chronically, and was, you know, would be 9 to 10 days of not being able to go to the bathroom. I was like, that is so bad. Like, that, you know, your elimination system is crucial for your health. It's, if the elimination system doesn't work, that's it, that you're starting to get disease. You'll get disease, because if your sewage system goes down, your toilet blocks in your house, it's very quick that you're in trouble, right? You can't live in there. Or you do poops on the ground, you know, it's not good for your health, right? So I started sending her research, and I was balanced about it, and I talked to her about it, because I've always in the past been a bit too emotionally involved, but I was kind of calm about it. I talked to her about it, and she stopped. I'm so pleased about that. And also my brother stopped looking at the research and making up their own mind based on the research, not what the doctors spout, because they've either been deceived by the marketing, or they just haven't got time to keep up with it. And the great thing is, like, it's 4 days or something since my mum stopped, and she's now, her constipation is completely regular. It's like night and day. So if she'd gone to the doctors, which she had done, they would just give her laxatives. So really, you can really say that medicine at the moment is rotten for me. I'm not talking about all doctors. They're in it to help people, but fundamentally the paradigm is disease management. It's just manage the disease. There's no looking into why. And I think that's why I'm good at what I do in helping people with their issues, is because I can be pattern information so well. And I don't know, with the statins thing. So this brings me on to another point that I find interesting. And again, these are my observations, is not advice at all, because I'm not a doctor or anything, just things to be aware of. And I'm still working on them, might be wrong. But the other thing I saw today was a tweet. I retweeted it. It was extensive review of literature on LDL, so low density lipoprotein, the bad cholesterol. When it's high, you live longer, right? So that's what all the research points to. You live longer with high cholesterol. I thought it was bad for you. And then this research was looking at immune, because the LDL is super important for your immune system, and it's extensive research showing that the higher your LDL, the better your defense against pathogens and viruses. Okay, so that's what the science says. So I'm like, well then, if people are taking statins to bring your LDL right down, will that make you more susceptible to COVID? I'm just, that makes sense, right? So I'm kind of looking at that at the moment. I'm like, well, there's this one doctor in UK, I can't remember, maybe it's Dr. Collins or something, takes has received loads of money from statin pharmaceutical companies, yeah? Just another thought comes to mind. I saw in this heart research center, like government site, that was saying, people say that statins are being prescribed because it's a profitable business and people are making loads of money, is false, because it's very cheap. But then if you look at the data, it shows that it is an absolutely huge $1 trillion business. So that's BS on that website. You need to be so careful nowadays. This doctor, he's saying he wants to put statins in Burger King and McDonald's for kids, so that they can eat that stuff. And I'm like, oh my god. So they're constantly trying to bring the threshold for doctors prescribing statins down so they can give out more, right? Good business model. So it just makes you wonder whether this overprescription of statins, which a lot of the top specialists and there are articles in BMJ on this, and you just look for them. There's a lot of research out there about this now, pointing to an overprescription of statins bringing down LDL, but LDL is super important for our immune function. Is that causing problems with pandemics? Okay. Yeah, so it kind of, I just wanted, I find that fascinating. And there's this other doctor, I heard him say recently that if you put metformin in the water supply, hospitals will be empty. So metformin is a very old drug that's not on a painting anymore, very cheap, used to make your body's insulin sensitivity improve, stop your liver uptaking the sugar. It's being used, looked at as an anti-aging drug, because insulin is, for me now, I'm starting to see it linked to every type of mood disorder. There's a psychiatrist on Twitter, can't remember his name, if you're interested I can find it. He's getting great results with bipolar, schizophrenia, by low carb diets. So there seems to be a huge prevalence of metabolic disorders, or pre-diabetes or diabetes, and it's ravaging people. So look into it yourself. Yeah, you might be fine, but I think my family has a susceptibility to that, and just very interesting. I mean, there's so many different aspects here. Oh yeah, another thing, shit, statins increase diabetes, your susceptibility to diabetes, but they don't put that on the, maybe they put it in this tiny small writing, but isn't that crazy? And people with diabetes are 3 times more likely to die of COVID. So interesting area, yeah. And so coming back to the original idea about the dyslexia, it's this wonderful gift. If you're an engineer, more systems type, that's fantastic, but know that you have limitations as well in that, and dyslexics have limitations, so putting them both together in a team is a great idea. They might drive each other crazy because they're different kind of personalities and different way of looking at things, but it is an awesome balance of the powers. Yeah, so yeah, those are just my thoughts. I wanted to get those out pretty much for myself, to be honest. I want to put these ideas out there because maybe one day people will look back. There's a lot of things I've wanted to say years ago, and I wish I put them out on social media because they came true in the end, or I was vindicated. So I'm just putting these thoughts out there. If you have any comments, I'd love to hear about what your ideas are on this. If you find them interesting, let me know. And thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed it, like the video and subscribe. That really helps my channel. Thanks so much, guys. Take care. Bye bye.